Hi, all.
Hi, everyone.
All right, here we go. We're recording.
Yeah.
We're calling this meeting to order. Pledge allegiance. Kyle can actually write in time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Declaration of potential conflict of interest. Kyle.
Potential. We will engage in a review of bids today for the fire alarm system. And my son works for ADT. And ADT did not bid on this, but one of his primary competitors did bid on it, and that competitor is Convergent. I don't think it's a conflict because I intend to support Convergent during the meeting, but it's nebulous out there, but it's out there.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Kyle. Sue?
None.
Mike?
No, ma'am.
Celeste?
None.
Okay, none for myself other than I continue to work for the school district as previously stated. Public comment, nobody online, extra, besides our,
Seems that way.
okay, nobody present. New business, review of fire suppression systems proposal for SRC. Take it away, whoever has knowledge on this topic.
I'm going to turn the time over to Chris. Chris, you there? Yes.
I am, thank you. As you recall, we went out for a formal RFP process to solicit a fire alarm contractor for the replacements of the fire alarm system for the Sunset Recreation Center. So that RFP was advertised a couple weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago now, and bids were due Wednesday of last week. I'm pleased to announce that we received 4 bids from responsive contractors, and so we took the liberty of reviewing those as a team. I understand at the last board meeting, it was there was like an appointment for Kyle, Skylar, and then myself and Brandon Dole with Scott Edwards Architecture also participated in reviewing the 4 proposals and evaluating those. Based on our evaluation criteria that was laid forth in the RFP of firm overview, firm compatibility, their demonstrated knowledge of the work that needs to be completed, the firm's experience, and their plan for logistics and coordination for the replacement, and then the overall cost. We had scored, and we have found that the best score and also happens to be the lowest price, so the lowest qualified contractor is Convergent Technologies. Any questions on what I've gone through so far?
No, not me.
I guess I do have one. Chris, what's your background? I'm so sorry.
No, that's fair. I'm a owner's representative by profession right now for the district. My background comes from the general contracting realm, so a lot of commercial construction experience in Portland and now the coast area.
Sorry, I should have done a better job of introducing and making sure everybody knows. Chris works for us. His company that he works for, the Fox Group, is called the Owner's Representative. So they represent us, we're the owners, in providing technical assistance and support through some of the questions and challenges that we have with the SRC and other projects. So it's like there's a knowledge gap from what I have and maybe even what the board has, no offense, to what is needed to get projects along and move them in the right direction. And Chris makes up that gap as well as represents us in working with contractors and other folks who do work on our behalf at the SRC.
Thank you.
Chris, do you mind if I augment some of the things you said? One of the things I liked about Convergent, and it wasn't part of the bid, but they intend to use local electrical contractor to do the wiring, pulling the wire and stuff. And that's important to me because the taxes that our taxpayers pay then will stay in the local economy rather than going out to a contractor in some other city. That's something I think we owe to our taxpayers if we can. Second, I envisioned that maybe 3 of the 4 were capable of doing the job. And one of the 3, what I call qualified bidders, one of those 3 required a tremendous amount of local coordination. They didn't want to do any of the coordination themselves, so I thought that was a disqualifier because I don't want to put any burden on our staff that we can't. But the bottom line is, there really wasn't competition here. I think Convergent, in my mind, was head and shoulders above the competition, and they were the cheapest, not cheapest, lowest price bid. So I'm encouraging the board to select Convergent for the fire system.
I see that they worked on the fire system at the new school, which I work at. And we had a few issues with the fire system, but then they, were responsive and coming out and fixing them. We've had no issues, so I have no complaints.
I think it looks good, Kyle. I think the price, I'm surprised, how reasonable it seems to do this work.
I think Convergent, at least, and Skylar can fill in the holes, but I think Convergent has been kind of closely aligning itself with the district over time, and they may want to win the bid for other projects that we might have going in the future. So I think they're looking at this as a relationship, not a transaction, which I think is another benefit.
I don't know if it's in here because this is the first time I've seen this. What's their timeline? Anybody?
They don't specify anything.
Okay.
They don't say how long it's going to take from start to finish, because I think there's some permitting issues that they have to figure out.
Okay.
When will they begin?
Gianna?
That's an open question.
Yeah, I think that'll be up for us to work through, and we'll have the expertise of Chris to do it. But I think we can convey, and maybe we already have, our urgency in getting this done, and I think we're financially prepared to do it, and so that should hopefully be an incentive to get on their schedule. And I guess I'm hoping sometime before the end of the calendar year, maybe even before that, like October, November would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, once they want the 25% mobilization fee, which would mean that would be the beginning of the project. So as soon as I would give them that, it would be interesting to know if they envision a completion date.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no frame of reference or even a concept of how long projects like this would take.
Chris can probably speak on that. I think we have some.
Yeah, the rule is how much are you willing to give them at a certain time. So one of our challenges is that the fire alarm system that's currently there is inadequate, but it's functioning more or less, and we would like to keep that up and running while the installation of the new one is occurring. And then once we're tested and functional, we will then decommission, remove, demo the old fire alarm system. So that inherently is going to take more time than if they were just able to get in there, start cutting all the wires, and then adding a new system. There's also some work that we're going to need to do with the building inspector and the local fire marshal to make sure they're on the same page with how we're going to execute that work. And then again, back to the close logistics with Skylar and the other users of the building to make sure they're understanding of what it's going to take, what hours during the day they're going to see contractors. So yeah, without having any of that nailed down, I think it could be somewhere over the course of 2 to 3 months from start to finish of actual construction.
See, I was envisioning almost a year, so, you know, there you go. That shows what I know.
Chris, question. Have you worked with conversion in the past?
You know, I have worked with conversion. I did a lot of healthcare work in the Portland metro area and most of the major hospitals. And at one point, I know that we had conversion on our project for security and access control scope. So not fire alarm. They have multiple scopes that they perform. But yes, I have worked with them before.
What was your experience?
From what I recall, this is a number of years ago. No complaints. I didn't come away from there remembering anything, and there's lots of scars that you can have from general contracting. So by not remembering anything bad, that's a good sign.
Is there any concern about Convergent and the technology we have in place with the other systems for the other buildings? And is there anything that we have to worry about or be concerned about?
Meaning,
Like, you know, you've got,
Integration of
like
different
this building.
systems together.
and we've got the building across the street, and then we've got Sunset Recreation Center. Is there any worry about the fact that this Convergent might be a different system with compatibility?
Yeah, all of the bids that we got would be different systems in the system that we have in in our other facilities.
Is that a problem?
They're different.
It's not necessarily, and I think there is opportunities in the future for us to assess our current system, and like Kyle mentioned, Convergent has been establishing a relationship with our staff to possibly explore how that would work for us moving forward. Just because I think there's a efficiency in aligning the buildings under one system, and we've had some challenges with our system in other buildings. So,
is our system, or any of our systems monitored?
sorry, what does that mean?
I mean, so if there's an alarm that goes
Yes.
off, there's a dispatcher somewhere.
Yes, yeah, we have a system. It's quite interesting. There's a phone tree. I want to say it might start with Darren and then it goes to me, or maybe vice versa. But yeah, we get calls and things like that. But I think the system, I don't know, Darren, you can speak to this maybe better than I can. It's fragmented. It doesn't work as good as we'd like it to. It's receiving maintenance on the system has sometimes been not as pleasant of an experience as you would like with something that is such a substantial investment for us. Feel free.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So you have to separate the two systems out too, because we have fire, the fire monitoring pieces, and then we have the burglary monitoring pieces. So those are kind of two separate categories.
But are they monitored in the same place?
Yes, through the same dispatch center, right?
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Chris, if you don't mind, I'd just like to make one other point. This Convergent, they're proposing Edwards Technology components. One of the bidders proposed Siemens. I think Salem Electric, proposed Siemens, and one other firm proposed help me out, I forget the name of it, but a well-known name. The fourth bidder did not specify what equipment would be used, and in my mind, that kind of disqualified me because I've never personally heard of Edwards Technologies, but I tried to look them up, and they're based in Schaumburg, Illinois. And I don't know if you've ever been to Schaumburg, Illinois, but there's one company there. There's Motorola. So I suspect that Edwards is a Motorola subsidiary, and, which is just fine with me, Motorola's a fine company, so, that makes me feel more confident about it. And I'm not saying they are Motorola, but it's pretty suspicious that it's a Motorola company.
For, the maintenance of the system, are they going to be the responsible party? Or, I mean, I'm assuming that would be a separate contract, but like, you know, you were saying that it's hard to maintain the system we currently have. Who's going to maintain this once it's in?
They proposed a price.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the price that they proposed for change orders and hourly rate was $155 an hour. So, I had an ex parte conversation with my son and said, hey, what do you charge for, you know, change order labor costs? And he said $165. So,
Okay.
they're in the window. Yeah, they're in the threshold of what's appropriate.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're putting in a system that's going to be able to be functional many
For
years
a long
down.
time.
Yeah, many years down the road.
Yes.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Kyle, did you make a motion? That we-
I move that okay, I guess I have to word this appropriately. Because there's really two motions. One is accepting this, and then one is entering into a contract, right?
For giving me permission to.
Authorize,
We're gonna authorizing Skylar to sign the
to
contract.
enter into a contract with Convergent.
Hey, Kyle, before you do that, let me just, hey, Celeste, do you have any questions, anything else you want to add?
No questions, and thanks to the folks that reviewed the proposal.
Sue?
No,
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure before we jump.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Have more discussion after we move and second.
Well, maybe just a couple more questions. One, the money's budgeted for. In fact, I think we have more money in the budget. And
Don't let them know that.
the 25% is not going to get us into cash flow problems between now and the budget year.
Excuse me.
I don't think so. Chris and Darren are working on just making sure, but I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. Yeah, we have the money budgeted.
We got about 6 weeks till,
Yeah.
8 weeks till money starts coming in.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I move that the board authorize Skylar to enter into a contract with Convergent Technologies subsequent to their winning proposal, and further authorize Skylar to clean up any Scrivener's errors that he discovers along the way.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second.
All right, thanks, Mike. All in favor signify aye, opposed nay. Kyle?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Celeste?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chris, for your
Nice work, Chris.
expertise.
Absolutely, and if I could just add, it's my intent, as long as it's okay with the board, to provide an intent to award to the awarded subcontractor and to the other three proposers, so they understand who we intend to award the contract with and understand that we're moving forward with contracting with that entity.
That intent to award triggers the opportunity for one of those losing bidders or less favorable bidders to challenge the bid, is that right?
I believe so. I believe it opens up a certain period of a number of days that they can contest if they'd like to. Out of pure kindness, I do the intent to award, so they're not sitting there wondering. They understand that the district has made a decision to enter into a contract, and we're in that phase. That if there's unsuccessful contract negotiations, then I would then tell them, okay, it opens back up again, and we could analyze other firms. But yeah, the intent to award is typically the next item that I do with the contractors that solicited.
I think that would be appropriate. Thanks, Chris.
Do we need to alter the motion or anything like that?
I don't think so. I think it's in
Yeah, it's part of, yeah.
to me, at least.
Okay,
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Excellent. Skylar, is there anything else you'd like me to hang on for?
Nope.
I saw the other topic, it looked like an IGA, but
Yeah.
probably not something for me to hang on for.
I don't think you need to. Yeah, you're good to go. Have a great night, and we'll chat later this week.
Thanks, Chris.
Excellent.
Thanks, Chris.
Broadway Field, IGA, completed IGA.
Okay, so it says completed. I'm gonna preface this. This is completed being our council, Eileen, as well as Seaside School District Council has signed off on this. Now, I will share. I met with Director Coddington today, and she found a typo and one other thing that I would like to change, or two other things that I would like to change. So this may, but they are not substantial changes. They are formatting or things like that. One thing that I would consider somewhat substantial, and I'm not sure how this came to be, if you look on Exhibit A, which is, oh golly, the page numbers get kind of messed up. It says A1, but it's at the end of the actual agreement, and you'll see the picture of the complex. It is not accurate, and I think this is important for it to be accurate. You'll see the partition line between Broadway Field and the SRC property is not reflective of the actual property line. So
Right.
either some of our capable staff will make that adjustment, or we'll ask the school district to make that adjustment. But that's one change that I would consider to be important.
Nice.
Since
I think that's also on Exhibit B. We should reflect that because,
Yeah.
the district is not leasing from us. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, in review of the agreement and kind of thinking about the past few months and our relationship with the school district and this partnership, which is a very important partnership, I think, for us, probably for them, and for our community as well. I think with Catherine's recommendation, I wanted to have this conversation, I think, with the board, and I think it's important for the board to have an honest opportunity, because as I shared, I am concerned about entering into an agreement of substance with the school district based on some of the experiences that we've had over the last few months. And I think there is a path forward for us to work maybe a little better together in better cooperation and partnership and communication. But I think there's some substantial concerns of things that have happened in the past couple months, and just us feeling like we were full partners at the table, that our efforts to expedite a change of use process back in the spring, the considerations that we made, the efforts that we made to mitigate the relocation of the Hirsch Family Training Facility, and lots of other things that I've shared details with you all. It doesn't sit well, I think, with me, and I'm representing the voice of the staff, to potentially enter into this agreement right now. And I'll even share, we had an experience last week with the school district where on Thursday we realized that the school district had not contacted us about renting locker rooms from us. And that's something that they've done for the last couple of years, because that's our property now, that's SRC. And so I reached out to school district staff, and yes, we do need to rent lockers from you, and we need them tomorrow, basically, Friday, for football games. And, I think it's those types of interactions that give us the feeling that we are not a full partner with them, that we're not, I don't know, I don't want to use the word respected, but it feels disrespectful in some ways. And so I think there's some concern from us, and I'm bringing this to you, and I'm not saying I don't think we should sign, I'm just saying I think it needs to be considered that signing into this agreement will enter us into a partnership with them for the next 15 years. And right now, our relationship is, I wouldn't say it's rocky, but it feels very, feels a little lopsided, I think. However you want to put that.
Uneven.
What's that?
Uneven.
Uneven, sure.
Yeah.
So, now, again, I do think there is a path forward for us to work together much better, and we certainly have our portion of the responsibility for that. And I have some suggestions, I think, of ways that we can sort of repair maybe some of the not great communication and some of the other challenges that we've had. But I think it would be silly to just proceed forward, given what we know, with signing this agreement without you having that discussion amongst yourselves, and you know, you can ask me questions or my perspective if you'd like, but it's important. The two documents will work in tandem, so I don't think it's prudent to sign the termination of the existing IGA until this document is ready to sign. If you all leave this meeting and you decide that you are okay with me signing and you want to continue on this relationship with them, and here's some strategies to improve the relationship, I'm great with that. And we'll work on that. And we recognize that Broadway Field is a really special place for our community, and I think keeping it in the domain of the Parks and Rec District to work cooperatively with the school district is what's best for our community and what's best for our district, because if we don't have access to that space, then we wouldn't be able to program things out there without renting the field from another party, probably the school district. We don't have a lot of events or activities on the field currently, so I don't think it's necessarily a deal breaker. I mean, right now we're programming out there probably maybe 5 days a year. But I think there's aspirations for us to grow some of our programs out there, and it's certainly a very proximatable location for some of that growth to occur. So those are some of my thoughts and perspectives. I know this is a challenging conversation because we have a school district employee as our board chair. Sorry to put you but my wife works for the school district in a couple of capacities. I have kids that go to school. I'm friends with the superintendent. We're in Rotary together. We see each other often. But frankly, I feel I need to be transparent with the board and say that our relationship with the school district is not great right now. And I think this partnership is concerning to me if we move forward.
Well, after 15 years, I fully expect, you know, I have this expectation of the school district to work cooperatively and collaboratively and respectfully with the park district and make their requests and communications in a timely way about whatever rentals or any type of agreement we need to develop. But I can understand your hesitancy to cancel the previous IGA until, you know, we got this thing buttoned down. And, you know, I don't know what issues are going on with the school district, but do you think that is it the interface with other staff at the school district that seems to be the problem, Scott? Or just a general?
I could speak. I could speculate. I don't know for certain. I think, from my perception, the change in leadership, you know, a few years ago to a new superintendent, I think that there's just a lot of knowledge that was lost with having Dr. Doherty and Dr. Rowley previously. They had been so closely involved with the district, and you know, Dr. Rowley was a teacher at Broadway Middle School for a long time, and I think a principal there too. And so to have that change happen around the same time as relocating the schools, as well as the same time as the pandemic, I think that kind of made what was a smaller gap much wider in our communication and our processes. I can't speak to the other things. That would be pure speculation and probably not appropriate, but all I can say is what we're feeling is a lack of true partnership and feeling like we're equals, or like we're respected even in most of our interactions.
Tyler, what's the downside of not signing this agreement and maintaining the previous one?
Well, I'm not sure if that's an option, just because the previous IGA was, involved the city of Seaside. And what has happened in preparation for us signing this or working with the school district is the school district has essentially bought the city of Seaside out of Broadway Field. And the partnership is now just between Park and Rec District and the school district. So if we weren't to sign this, I think then we would still probably choose to dissolve our part of the previous IGA, and it would be up to the school district to decide how they want to manage and operate Broadway Field.
Well, I'm just talking about the interim period. I mean, if we say we're not gonna sign this tonight, and then assuming that there'll be some
Sure.
adjustments, modification, we'll sign it in 2 months or 3 months,
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, is there
I understand.
exposure to?
Sorry, I understand. I think it's our desire, I don't think there is exposure. I think the current IGA is in place until it's signed by all 3 parties. Now, 2 of the 3 parties have signed it. We're the only ones that haven't. And it's our desire to continue providing the same level of services and care for the field as we have previously, even knowing that our relationship and our responsibilities would change under the new IGA. One thing that would be different is, the amount of financial exposure that we have under the current IGA is much greater than what we would have with the new one. The new one, we've designed it and worked, leveraged the work that we've done to get more support from the school district, and we've laid out, in here, as you guys have seen, who's responsible for what and at what percentage of the cost, whereas before that was undefined and really hard to figure out. So.
Is there any reference, what you mentioned as far as the date, on page 1, it talks about in recital section F, we've entered into this as of May 17th. So.
Yeah, I think we could change that date. I think at another point in this agreement, it says that it's effective whenever it's signed. So I think for us, it's kind of up to us. We're really the last people to arrive at the party, if you want to put it that way. And like I said, maybe we choose to adjust this a little bit more, or again, I do think I want to stress this because I'm a collaborator. I don't want the district to be the people that take their ball and go home and not try to serve and figure out solutions. I feel like we have done what we can over the past 8 years since I've been here to really make this relationship work well and to be a good partner. And again, it's my responsibility to represent future financial implications and obligation to the district. And right now, it's not a comfortable position, thinking that we'll be in a relationship with this partner who I don't feel like has communicated well, and I don't know or understand what's going to happen with Broadway Field. When is the softball project going to start? How are softball and baseball going to work together? Darren, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was our understanding that there would be teams out there practicing after school every day, and we're not really seeing that. It's only being used as a game site, which is fine, but it's just a lot of little things that aren't being communicated well, I think.
Is this because they turf the field up at the
I think that's a
high
big part of
school
it.
and they're
Yeah.
practicing up there instead of here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, but if you think about it, they have
They do track.
They have 2 high school football programs, they have a middle school football program, they have girls soccer, they have boys soccer. I'm assuming there's girls JV and boys JV soccer, so there's a lot of teams. I think we anticipated that one or a couple of those programs would be down here every week, and it's not a big deal. The turf is the turf, but what doesn't feel great is the lack of communication about what's going to happen.
So,
And that we've blocked off these times for these teams to practice and said, no to community users, or that's the way it looks, but we're not actually.
Are we turning on the lights and using energy without anybody showing up?
I think the lights are programmed when there's activities. I don't know if they're just on all the time. I've driven by and they haven't been on when there's nobody on the field. That's another part of the current IGA. The city
Yeah, 'cause we're paying for that.
Well, the city actually pays for the lights under the current agreement, and that's something that they would obviously like to change with the new agreement.
Yeah.
You were gonna say something.
Yeah. I sort of feel like the IGA and the communication are two separate things. Like, the IGA is the, legalese, and here's how it's gonna work and all that. But I'm feeling like the communication aspect is, I know they're not separate, but I feel like that part we kind of need to just find a way to work on, and I think the IGA is important to put in place so that, we can recoup our costs, and I think that having our seat at the table for the field, particularly because we are right there, is important for the community. I would hate to see us just throw our hands up and be done. I think it's important. I know that you set up some quarterly meetings with the team. I'm wondering if, for example, we do a weekly staff meeting in the office to just go over, what is the next 2 weeks, month, what are the big events, what happens. I'm wondering if maybe, maybe you don't need to do it weekly, maybe you do need to do it weekly. Maybe a quick Zoom call between, you and Tanabe and, Penrod, and is the field going to be used this next week? Okay, great. Here, what are the questions? I don't know. Anyway, go ahead, Sue.
Well, there's one of the things that, there are a lot of things that bothered me about this, and I had the opportunity to kind of bug Eileen on Wednesday at the educational thing, and she insisted that there be a conversation before anything moved forward, and that has happened. And she has signed off, which I have a lot of faith in her, because she was to me, when I was asking a question, she was coming back with serious questions. So she was, number one, listening, and then finally just saying, I need to be involved. And I appreciated that. But what I kept coming back to in this document was good faith. And there's something that's unsettled to me, and I appreciate my upbringing. If ever in doubt, don't. And so I'm trying to eliminate those doubts. Eileen signing off was one big doubt that was eliminated, but I still have this nagging concern that I really can't articulate because I don't go to the school board meetings. I've not been involved because I'm doing other things that day. But I am, there's just something that bothers me, that the voters put me in a position to speak for them. And I feel like somehow am I not asking the right question? I just feel like there's something that bothers me here, and yet I am in no way interested in sacrificing because of some minutia or something of this relationship. So I want to figure out how it can go forward. I just don't know how to quell that concern I have.
Yeah, I think I can understand your comments, Sue, and I just think I think Skylar should only sign this IGA when he feels it's good and ready and perfected to the degree that he and staff require. And, you know, I feel it's up to Skylar to deal with and confront any problems with communication or lack of thereof, with the school district and see if he can
I have something to say, but
fix the
Celeste
bridges.
wanted to say something.
So I have several things. So one is, I'm not sure that I see the benefit of remaining in the existing agreement. The new agreement provides the SEPRD with lots of additional benefits, including an increased annual dollar amount that we receive for our participation and construction guarantees. So guarantees that, for instance, locker rooms are going to be renovated. Those things don't exist in the current IGA, so I don't see any benefit at all at staying in the current IGA. You know, that said, we could dissolve the current IGA and sit in limbo, and that would apply some pressure to resolve issues in the new IGA, but I don't see a benefit to remaining in the current IGA. It actually is less advantageous to us than the proposed IGA. So that's one of my concerns. I think the second concern is I'll note that leasing of locker rooms is not addressed in the proposed IGA. And so that makes me wonder if there are other elements that are left out that we should be reviewing the newly drafted IGA, whether or not it's complete. So that's just one thing I will say. But larger than that, I think one of the things that I'm wondering about in the IGA is I think there's a lack of carrots or sticks in the proposed IGA. So, for example, there are no late fees for scheduling. So, if, for instance, there was a $250 late fee for scheduling fields short notice, that would be a stick or a carrot for the school district to comply with the scheduling. And there isn't anything like that in there. There's also no timelines in the current IGA. And so I have we at this point have what I consider to be a breach of the good faith agreement that we had around the timeline for the softball field. But it's not actually laid out in the IGA, and so we can't hold anybody to that. And so if we had timelines in the current IGA with penalties outlined, delineated in the IGA, then we could hold people to it. And so I think part of our problem is our IGA doesn't have any teeth. And that worries me because, frankly, I don't think resting on good faith and relationships is going to do it with an IGA because people move on and things, priorities change and all of that. And I think it needs to be drafted into the IGA. My last piece that I'd like to see is I think there is great risk to us, the district, the Park and Rec district, to shutting down the IGA. The community does not follow this relationship. They don't follow the IGA. And if word on the street is Park and Rec won't allow the football team to use the locker rooms, that is going to be a very bad look and puts us at great risk via reputation in the community. And so I have lots of concerns about that.
So that's a question.
Good point.
I anticipated that this draft might take a month or two to clean up. Are you suggesting that we should cancel the existing agreement during that interim period?
Part of the problem is that because we moved ahead, and I understand the reason that we moved ahead, but we've lost our leverage position. If we cancel the existing IGA, we're back in a leverage position where we now have some, currently what's the consequence? What's the penalty if the school district doesn't? I mean, before we had leverage, right? They couldn't continue with their construction project of the football field unless we had an IGA in place.
Well, there are termination requirements in the IGA. If they fail to perform, we can terminate the contract. But that's the only stick we have.
Yeah, it's the only thing we have. I don't know that. And it puts us in a really poor light in the community.
Yeah, that's a nuclear
I don't
option,
like I don't like the consequences of that for us. So if we were to dissolve the current IGA and operate IGA lists, frankly, everything has to be negotiated piecemeal until we get a new IGA down. That would give us some leverage, at least. But operating under the old IGA feels like to me like we're saying, okay, fine, we'll do it for less money, we'll do it for less notice, we'll do everything for less, and we'll just say, and what's the incentive for them to move ahead on a better IGA?
Good
I mean, I don't
That-
think
that's a
it's,
great point.
I don't think it's any skin off the school district's back if we stay under the old IGA. I could be wrong, but I'm not sure why that would matter to them. They've already gotten their permission to move ahead with construction.
One of the questions that I asked Skylar this morning was on page 6. It talks about current construction and future construction, and the current construction is not happening. And so I questioned whether the current construction of current projects needed to move to a future. And because one of those good faith questions I had was, if they can, in my opinion, get away with saying that, well, we can share the field this year, well, why don't we share the field next year? And I'm concerned that that complacency could become a way of thinking. And I want, I would want the public to understand, we did our due diligence, we've had, Mr. Anderson had his, I'm supposed to say his name, sorry. The issue with the Title IX, maybe, I just want people to understand, we really are promoting going forward with this softball field. We would never have gone ahead with a softball field, matching boy and girl, if, that wasn't a feasible thing to do. And I feel like if somehow, this year we're just going to share the field, well, why didn't Sunset, Park and Rec decide to share the field, and why put us through all this stuff with a new field? And does what I'm saying make any sense? I'm just worried that this year we're going to share the field. Okay, well, why don't we share it in the future?
Well, I hear what you're saying about that, but the judgment has already been made in that. They have to build a softball field. They do. And it's up to the judges and all that to penalize them or whatever it is if that doesn't get done. But
yeah, I just don't want it to become, well, why not just leave it the way it is and let the fields be shared? And I think the judgment is present, but we need to know that the partner is going to hold their end of the bargain and do what they're supposed, their due diligence to hire a person that will take care of what is supposed to be done. And I'm just not sure that I trust that. So this is listed under current construction, which is already obsolete because it's not currently happening. So does that move to future construction? But does that mean that it's a loophole to say, well, we don't need to do it, except for this judgment, which, well, we couldn't find anybody, and so there's a loophole there, so let's just leave it the way it is. And I'm just worried that I'm just uncomfortable.
Skylar, the nature of the relationship and the approval of the IGA aside, I just have a couple comments on the minutia of the document. First, in section 1.6, it says that we will develop an operation manual. And knowing you guys, I suspect that's probably already available, or you've made headway on that?
It isn't yet, and the reason being, well, actually, there's not a really good reason. The operation manual was a requirement of the previous IGA, and so I think we have a set of, best practices, policies that we are doing, but they're not codified into a manual, and that manual was supposed to have been produced by all three of us. I
Okay.
think, but now it clearly spells out that the responsibility of this operational manual falls to us.
Okay, and then, in section 7.1 term, it's a 15-year term, but it's renewable for 2 additional 15-year terms, so this could be a 45-year agreement. This will outlive all of us. Well, me. Probably not you guys. Next, under, insurance. So the district will maintain, the school district will maintain insurance of $1 million per claim and $2 million aggregate. But the park district has to maintain $1 million per claim and $5 million aggregate. Why are we required to be insured more than the school district? So, and we probably have that insurance anyway, I'm not sure, it just seems a lot.
I think this isn't a push from them to have us be insured for more. I think this is just what we are already insured for with our provider. And I guess I'm surprised that they don't have a similar number or a higher number for
People will see.
I'd be surprised if the school district has only a $2 million liability.
Me too. So,
Of course, they could supplement that with taxpayer funds. I don't know. So then, under section 11, and particularly under termination, it says either party may terminate this for cause, but they have to give a reason, and then they have to give the other party the opportunity to remedy whatever was broken. But then the very next paragraph says either party may terminate it without cause with 30-day notice. So what's the point of having the for cause section in there and then also the not for cause section with the identical 30-day notice period? And then it will automatically terminate upon the termination of the lease. What is the lease?
15 years, the city leased it for 15 years.
Well, but the property lease?
that's what I'm guessing it's referring to, is the school district's lease of the property from the city is also for 15 years with 2 extensions of 15 years, just like this one is structured in terms of timing.
Oh, okay, so, but,
Yeah, that's listed under recitals,
Wait.
it outlines the lease up at the top.
okay, and then finally, section 12. That's fine. It says that if at any point the school district does not have access, then it can decide nobody has access?
Yeah, I'm reading that the same way, I guess. I don't understand. This is not my writing. This is something that was added, I'm assuming, by school district council. I don't necessarily understand why that's in there. I don't understand a possible situation of why that would be necessary. Maybe
Well,
somebody wants.
I think it's more evidence that the school district wants to make sure it has primacy in this agreement. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that would be my.
And that's where one of the things, what I took that sentence and went, good faith, impact.
So those are my only detailed
Those are
comments
great.
on
Those are great
the
feedback.
agreement itself. And there was no date on here. So I was trying to figure out when this thing was produced, that effective date up in the recital.
Yeah, I mean, we began working on this in probably February or March. And I think everybody's probably familiar with the process, but it was it was a little bit frustrating. I think it's just one of the areas that's added to the frustration is that it became apparent early on that it was going to be the responsibility of this SEPRD to draft this. And even though it was a requirement for construction by the city council. And so,
I don't necessarily view that as a negative thing, though.
no, that's fine, but I'm saying that what I'm talking about is the expending of resources and of our time. And
The school district should be liable for that.
they were, but we had agreed as a group that they weren't liable for staff time. They were liable for our consultants' time and for our counsel, our attorney, but not for my time or for Darren's time or the other staff that invested their time and energy into this. And after that initial draft and a thorough revision that took probably 6 weeks, then it went, and it honestly has bounced back and forth between school district council, our council, at least 3 times each. And that's where we're at right now. So that's why some of this part, some of this, like a couple of things that you brought up, like I've read it, but I know I didn't write it. I don't know who added it. You know, it just kind of got added along the way. You know, and it probably checked the box that one of the attorneys said this box needs to be checked in order for this to be a legal document that I will stand by, right? Or I will represent you by.
Well, I really think what he pointed out in section 11B and then C, that means, to me, the non-legal person, you can terminate this because, no, you can terminate it for any agreement, you know, any reason. That's a red flag to me. I mean, and I don't understand. Is that just legalese that, you know?
Well, it just seems odd that you'd have a 15-year agreement and you could terminate in 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, I don't,
It does seem strange.
I come back to that good faith thing, and I don't,
Wonder what they're,
it's just bothering me.
it's all about trust.
I really do think this is just legal contract language. Like, I think we could propose a different length of time if we wanted more notice. Like, I think it would be reasonable to ask for 90 days, but you have to have a termination clause in a contract or some instruction about how it's going to terminate. So I think this is just standard language, boilerplate language. If we feel like we want more, I think we should just indicate that. I don't think anybody was trying to get one past us on that one. I think it's just
I think
boilerplate.
it's contradictory.
I think there was probably, in the earlier versions that I saw that the school district had presented to us, it lacked legal tenacity. Like it lacked legal language, and so I think this got added in as boilerplate language.
But I think it needs to be one or the other, and 90 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and whatever we feel like is, we should propose back what we think is reasonable.
So, I don't know, I don't necessarily think this is ready to be signed. I think Kyle had some good points, Sue had good points, Les had good points. I don't think we're ready to sign it. I think it needs some more finessing. I think the uncomfortable discussion that we need to decide is, are we ready to exit the current IGA and just be IGA less? And that is an uncomfortable feeling.
Well,
Can I ask, Catherine, what is I am curious about hearing, like, I'm not sure I thought out the repercussions of being without an IGA. What are the repercussions?
I don't know, I'm just saying that it feels uncomfortable to think of operating the field without this umbrella, you know, like, it's a safety blanket, right? Like, I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing or a wrong thing, or it's just, that's the feeling, right?
Sure, thank you.
I think, Celeste, from my perspective, I think from the staff's perspective, to not have the security of knowing that we will be financially compensated for staff time is, I think it leaves us liable. Or, you know, our exposure
Well, how about
is
if we adopt a standard staff rate of $120 an hour?
Well, why don't we have
Or why don't we just adopt a regular staff rate? $120 an hour is an going rate if you hire any contractor right now. So what if we adopted a staff rate, and that's the billed through rate that we bill for any time spent maintaining the field in the interim? that would certainly be a carrot to enter into a new IGA.
Absolutely.
And instead of having a specific rate and all of the paperwork that requires to manage the hours, could we just have a monthly overhead fee and just aggregate it into one monthly fee, predetermined, anticipating that these guys are gonna spend 10 hours a month or whatever on the thing, and just bill it out as an overhead fee?
Yeah, that's what the IGA says, but I would say it should be significantly higher, because if we go with just a rate, again, the advantage of being in the IGA is there are some distinct commitments from the school district regarding upgrade of facilities. So we're not talking about a difference of $60 an hour or $40 an hour, whatever. We're talking about $2 million remodels, and there's some significant upgrade commitments from the school district. And I'd like to see us incentivize that partnership that we envisioned. And so I would want to make sure that if we're going to go without an IGA for any period, that it's extremely uncomfortable, because it's uncomfortable for us, because we don't know what's going to happen with our facilities and with the field. And we need to incentivize them getting into the IGA.
So what if, just hypothetical, what if the school district says we are not going to pay $120 an hour or a monthly rate of whatever it is? What would we do then? Because then I think we're in the same position of having to say, well, then you don't get to play your football game on Friday night, and that's not a solution that I think any of us want. So I guess I feel like we're going to go down the same road.
And do we really have the ability to say that? I mean, they're going to just come and play their football game anyway.
They lease it. They just wouldn't be able to use our locker.
Or parking.
They can get by without locker rooms for a couple games.
The locker rooms, yeah, they're not even.
So if we went without an IGA,
But like, if they do that, if they just press forward, how does that incentivize them to, I don't know, like, that doesn't feel like we're really motivating anybody in a direction.
They still have a softball field to complete. Operating under an IGA, I would propose, I could be wrong about this, but I would propose operating without an IGA at all is much more uncomfortable for the school district than it is for us.
Doesn't that put an additional burden on staff to negotiate each one of those prices for use of the field or fees or user fees?
Well, and it's a very easy message for them to sell, and they have done it
already.
That, well, SEPRD didn't get the field ready, or SEPRD, the scoreboard is broken and they didn't fix it, or the lights got turned off and it's SEPRD. That's already happened, even in better times.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, I'm uncomfortable pretending that, I'm uncomfortable turning our proverbial back on the field or on the IGA without communicating that to them up front. And they're going to have the leverage in that conversation unless we say it is because of this and this and this and this and this. And that has to be done, I think, a very particular and public way. And I'm not saying that that's what we should do. I'm just saying, like, I don't know what leverage we gain, because I think they're going to continue on. And if anything bad happens on the field or the trash can is full, it's going to be our organization, the district, that is the one that suffers the reputational risk.
I would
I think
concur with that. Eileen said, be careful. She was going to be talking to you after me, but she said, you have to be careful here, because this is going to reflect badly on us if we're not careful.
So maybe to Skylar's point, it behooves a conversation, to give them the opportunity to fix the things and make headway, where we say, hey, we are considering just stepping away from the IGA and operating IGA less, unless, and here's what we want to see happen. And give them the opportunity to.
I think it can be an open public letter. I mean, I think to your point, Skylar, I agree with you, but I don't think the alternative is just to do I mean, we can't operate. At this point, we are on a footing, which I don't think the Park and Rec District had previously, but we're on a footing where we actually do have, higher stake and ownership in this agreement than we've had previously, right? We own part of the land that they want to use for the softball field.
Yep.
We own, but the fact that we had a handshake agreement on this IGA is what led construction to go through, like the permitting process to move forward and go through. We have the locker rooms, those are things that we've had before. And so the fact, if the I think in some cases we have to tell a narrative. Like, I'm not proposing that we pull out of the narrative without communicating. We need to communicate. But I think we need to be clear, and I think we also need to be clear about what we want in this IGA in order to get it over the finish line. But I don't think we need to just move ahead and take care of all of the things without remuneration, and without communication on their end. I just don't, I mean, to me that is, that sets us up for a position where our services and our assets are being taken for granted.
Okay. So what I'm hearing, I'm just going to try to synthesize a little bit to help us move along, is that the board is in favor for proposing that we terminate the existing IGA, and you give me authority to do that, and that accompanied with that termination notice would be some form of a correspondence that would say we are not signing the revised or the new IGA at this time, and providing a timeline maybe that we get those changes to them, and that we propose in that correspondence, here are some concerns maybe, or things that have made this situation more challenging, maybe providing a few of those highlights, lowlights, however you want to look at it, and proposing a fee of a fee for work that will continue in the interim. And I don't disagree with the suggested price, or at least starting there until the IGA is signed. Does that sound like I'm...
It sounds fine.
It
sounds fine, except this last page,
Uh-huh.
the very, very last page is the one that was signed. I presume, well, I don't know. I don't presume anything. I don't assume.
So that's the dissolve
Right.
existing. So I haven't signed it. Two
Right.
of the three other parties have signed it.
Well, it's just, what concerns me is this is saying, we look at all this other stuff, but when you get down to this last page, as of July 1, everything is, 9, I don't know, 9-1, I guess I have to go back and look at it, and replaced with, this agreement shall commence and terminate as of July 1. So is there something in this page that, I guess I'd have two questions. Based on this last page, can we sign this page but go back and amend other things? Because I don't think the answer is yes. I think we have to sign this page. It means we accept everything on this other pages, correct?
These are two separate documents. So I don't think, in theory, they're probably best done together. But I think what I'm hearing, and it's a strategy I hadn't considered, is that they don't have to be done together. They're not coupled. The third whereas says that we intend to enter into a new IGA for operation and management. So I think that suggests that we will. And we may not be done yet, yeah, we'd like to be done. I'd like to have been done with this like 7 years ago, but we're not. And so as long as we're working on it, I think that we could terminate this agreement in good faith and do it with the accompanying message that we're going to work on this other stuff. We're going to amend this new IGA. We're going to keep doing the services on the field at a rate that's fair in the time being, and we'll try to move as quickly as we can.
So well, I'm just curious, how does this communicate to the city and the district, the school district?
Well, the city, I think, all due respect, I think they could care less at this point. They've already written themselves out of Broadway Field, so
But
this is seriously just not even icing on the cake. This is just a sprinkle for them. Once they get go ahead.
Well, do you go to Eileen, who goes to their lawyer, who goes to Susan, or do you go to Susan tomorrow at Pick and Pan and say, this is what we did? How does this
I'm
go forward?
not going to have that conversation with Susan in an informal setting.
Right.
I'm past that point of.
Well, and that's why I'm asking, does this go to Eileen? And
This, just the last page?
Well, I don't know.
This has already been reviewed by council. It's ready to be signed. It's already been signed by 2 of the 3 parties.
Well, how did they find out that we're looking at signing this, but we want to revise this?
Yeah, again, the city probably could care less.
Right.
The school district, it needs to be accompanied, this message, however we put it, whoever writes it, it needs to be accompanied by the message of this is where we're at, and this is why, and this is our timeline for moving forward, and here's what we're going to offer in the interim. And I think we can do that.
I think what we could do, so there's a couple things, we could also set a timeline that we're gonna dissolve, we'll sign the existing IGA in 30 days. That's our timeline, and we've given Skylar permission on day 31 to sign the existing IGA, and at that point we'll be operating IGA lists. And I think we can also say, for the record, that it is our hope that we can enter into an IGA agreement that is acceptable to both parties, because we want to see sports go forward. And we are in full support, as a Park and Rec district, of seeing Title IX in full effect, as it's been, as it's been defined for the school district to step up for softball. Like, we could put out a public statement about that, saying, because that is our hope. We've been operating from that standpoint this whole time. And give them 30 days, and now the clock starts ticking. That they have 30 days, we're going to disintegrate the existing IGA, and we'll be IGA list. And at that point, here's our rate sheet. And to your point, Kyle, I don't care if it's a monthly rate sheet or a weekly rate sheet or per event rate sheet, I don't really care. But it should be like 5 times what the IGA agreement is, because we're conceding a lot. We have documented in the IGA that this is a 3/4 time position. And we are billing approximately anywhere between $20,000 to $25,000 a year outside of expenses. We're not even covering our staff time.
Healthcare costs.
We're not covering anything, right? So we're already doing this. This is our good faith effort, is to bill at this lower rate. We should be billing at full rate. Part of the reason we're willing to make this concession is because we're sharing the field. It's a benefit to our patrons. It's part of the collaboration. So we're willing to pony up part of our staff time, not be fully reimbursed for it. But if we're going to be IGA list, we should be fully reimbursed.
So what Celeste is proposing is light the fuse, a 30-day fuse, and but we have a board meeting on the 26th. We could say, hey, school board, this agreement is going away on the 26th.
I don't think we should wait. I think we should communicate our wishes right away. I recommend Celeste and Skylar working together to draft the proper documents and communicate with the school district. But I think it makes sense to terminate the old IGA and work out some other basis.
On the 31-day basis, as Celeste said, on day 31?
That's not unreasonable.
I like that idea.
I don't think that's unreasonable. Given, unless there's some kind of, legal review of that framework. you know, by Eileen, maybe Eileen should review that letter.
I mean, the minute the IGA goes away, they have no right to build on, there's a lot of doing over, right? There's no right to build, like, there's a lot of agreements that go, there's a lot of problems that happen when we're operating IGA lists.
I think
Yeah.
we need to spell
That out.
that out for them,
Mm-hmm.
because I think otherwise they will just say, oh, we don't have to pay this $30,000.
We don't have to move our gardens.
And we can still, you know, play
Don't
football
move our
games and
gardens
stuff.
either.
That's great for us.
No, they can't move Hirsch Center, they can't move the community garden, they can't do a lot of stuff.
Can't finish the softball
I know,
field.
but
Go moving forward.
I think, as much as this is painful to say, I think the softball project it's not. I think they're more concerned about having their fall activities go forward than they are about worrying about the future of the softball program.
Maybe we put in there, since they're very concerned about access to lockers, that, since we won't be guaranteed renovating if the current, you know, new IGA, that we, you know, we'll have to maybe shut those down for a while. I don't know. I mean, if that's gonna be.
Absolutely, I mean, I think we have a rack rate for locker room use, right? Like, I think we should have, yeah, I mean, I think that's, in other words, we have to have incentivization for them to enter into an IGA and to abide by the spirit. What I'm figuring out here, beyond, you know, because I was responsible for being in some of those meetings with the IGA drafting, is I think we left some stuff out, assuming that there would be more follow through, and I think we just have to be more specific and have that stuff in writing. You know, even including meeting dates and penalties and timelines and so forth. Like, I just think some of that stuff, we thought we had timelines because the contractors gave us timelines, but it should have been not. That's my oversight. I should have caught that. That's, like, those timelines should have been, that's what contracts are for.
There is
Some
some timeline stuff in here, Celeste, but maybe it doesn't have the teeth.
No, it doesn't have the kind of timelines for the construction project.
You're right, but it does have, like, get us your dates of this and that by these dates. There is that.
Yeah, but they're not, those aren't things with teeth, right?
You're right.
And there's no penalty to it, right? So, like, it says in there that they were supposed to get us a schedule by whatever date.
Yeah.
But there's no penalty to it, so there's no teeth.
Okay, so.
We should have teeth.
Well, I was gonna say the next school board meeting is the 19th.
Sure.
Yeah,
So-
I would like to attend that. Let me see, I'm seeing if I can.
Well, one of the questions that Skylar raised today was, you know, maybe there's been no public comment from us as a board. You know, I mean, we're in these meetings, but there's been no public comment to us and written down in correspondence that communicates to us that we don't like what happened. And, you know, that perhaps we need to draft something that at least lets the public understand that we don't care for this as a group.
Yeah, I think there needs to be stronger communication, like you said.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, Skylar chime in, 30 days, we're gonna tell them we're done with the existing IGA. We are going to draft a letter with some strong verbiage. I would suggest that we make the changes that we want to add the teeth to this draft and present it as a package deal so that they have the time to review it and before the 30 days. And then, hopefully we will be signing a new IGA and all will be right with the world and rainbows and kittens and. Yeah.
Skylar, you know, you mentioned a couple times during this conversation that you thought a certain plan might not work. Do you have a plan that you think would work? That's different from what we've talked about?
Not significantly different. I hadn't considered the signing of, like, dissolving the current without packaging it with signing the revised or the new. So that's different. But I think the way forward for me was moving forward with the new IGA in some way, not saying we sign it tonight, but moving forward soon, and messaging it with some strong indicators that, you know, our relationship has been frayed, and that there needs to be a reinvestment into better communication and partnership between the two parties. And however that looks, I have some ideas that I can share offline, but I think we're on the right track for some of that. And I frankly, I feel like I wouldn't want to be doing this on my own without the board's support and insight and knowledge. And I think that the time has come for, and I know some of this communication has happened, but I think the time has come for this to not be a executive director of SEPRD and superintendent of Seaside Schools only conversation. I think board members, I think boards need to be more involved in this process because, and not our board, I guess I'm saying. So, however that
And I would
leverage
like,
needs
can
to
I just add in, Skylar, because I should have mentioned this to the full group and I failed to do it. I did provide a communication to the board regarding disappointment in the communication from the school district regarding the delay in the softball field project, and asked that they add a board member to the IGA committee, and that I would be the board representative to the IGA committee as we decided, I think it was our last board meeting. And I got an immediate response. I got an immediate apology that there was a lack of communication, a commitment from the board chair that he would look into it, and that they would delegate somebody to the IGA committee. So I agree with you, Skylar. I think there has to be some board participation in all of this, and wanted to say that we did receive a response to that. I'm not sure if we know yet who is going to be the board representative from the IGA, but and Skylar, I'm not sure, did you receive any confirmation of the dates that you outlined?
Yeah, we
For the IGA committee?
proposed some dates. We adjusted them based on some factors, and then one of the dates that I chose was on a holiday that I didn't remember. Sorry, but yeah, and then they confirmed that they would be attending. That the athletic director, the superintendent, and one of their board members, Brian Owen, would be their representative. So that's all been set. I don't think our first meeting is till maybe the second or third Monday of October. But then we'll meet quarterly for the rest of time.
So, do you need a motion that says that we authorize Skylar to sign the previous agreement 30 days hence, and that will provide the notice that Celeste is pushing forward, because that's our negotiating period. That's our, and if you can get it done in 30 days, I'm good with making that motion.
Yeah.
Unless Celeste wants to make the motion, it's your idea.
I'm not sure it feels like the motion territory. I mean, we're on public record currently, talking about, I mean, what are we deciding exactly? Are we deciding that we're going to terminate the existing IGA in 30 days?
Yeah.
So is that the decision?
Yeah.
I'm not ready to vote on signing the new IGA because there's several provisions that are missing.
Right,
that I realize.
But publicly authorizing Skylar to sign the agreement in 30 days will light a fire under the school district to get this thing fixed, or, I mean, that's the whole point, right? That's what you intended, was to provide some impetus for them to come to the table and negotiate fairly.
Well, the letter.
Yeah, so that's a good point, Kyle. I was actually thinking that the leverage would be that by terminating that existing IGA in 30 days, and the idea of being IGA less would be the that would light the fire. We could also start the clock ticking by saying there's a 30-day deadline, that unless this is signed within 30 days, the new one.
Well, I think,
But that has some problems with it.
yeah,
because
I'm happy with them figuring out their own timeline.
Well, if they've already signed this, are they,
But we haven't.
We
So
have,
no wait until we sign it.
okay.
So if the motion, you want a motion that says we authorize Skylar to sign the termination document in 30 days.
In 30 days. Yeah, I think that, I mean, I think that sounds reasonable, and I think then the rest of it can be in the communication, what that means is that we will be IGA-less, which is not good for us, but probably even worse for the school district.
A lot worse, because they can't predict the price.
Right.
Did the letter that you wrote to us, you actually expressed, the board disappointment? So they got that message? I mean, because
I think I expressed it as that I was disappointed because I didn't want to speak up necessarily on behalf of the board, but I looked it up and I can read, it was a very short message, but basically I said, I hope that the Seaside School District would designate a representative to participate in the IGA Management Committee as outlined in the Broadway Complex IGA, meets quarterly, so not a heavy lift. In order for the IGA to work for both parties, we need to ensure stronger communications and collaboration compared to the past. We, collective SEPRD board and staff, were taken by surprise to learn about the softball construction delay through the signal. The delay substantially impacts Park and Rec programming, maintenance responsibilities, and our own construction projects and timelines. As a partner, we should be receiving updates directly through the partnership, and I believe the IGA committee will provide a structure to ensure that happens.
I mean, are you okay with that?
Well, I already said that. That's what got a response. He responded immediately,
Right.
and said he was sorry that there was a lack of communication, and that he wasn't sure who had dropped the ball, but he would personally make sure anything regarding Broadway Field Complex is communicated to our board and staff.
Who's he?
the chair.
Board chair.
Board chair, Brian Taylor, board chair.
Okay.
So
I feel like that communication was effective, and I think we probably need more of that. So I think, yes, I think we could do a motion that gives Skylar authorization to sign the dissolution of the existing IGA in 30 days, but I think we need to pair it, and Skylar, I think this is what you're saying too, it needs to be paired with some pretty clear and concrete communication about what that all means.
You made a motion, right?
No, I didn't. I proposed what the language of a future motion might be.
Okay.
I move that the board authorize Skylar to sign the dissolution agreement, if that's the right word, on October 4th, 2023.
Of the original IGA.
Of the original IGA.
And what's the date that they had for October? Was that the 2nd? That they were doing something at the school? I don't know who said that. Something was happening the 2nd, or, excuse me, it was the first week in October.
Oh, it's,
Is that the IGA committee meeting? Is that what you're talking about?
No.
that's did you say that was like the second or third week?
The IGA Management Committee doesn't meet until October 23rd.
I got a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
The 4th is 4 weeks, 28 days. The 6th would be 30 days. That's a Friday. And if the 2nd would like me to amend my motion to the 6th, I'm happy to do that. So.
I'm happy with it.
You're happy with
I'll
what?
second.
The fourth?
I'm happy with the fourth, and I'll second it.
Okay, the fourth.
Okay,
Sorry.
all in favor signify aye, opposed nay. Kyle?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Celeste?
Aye?
I'm gonna abstain.
Good call. And my only question then would be, are you able to handle the onslaught? Because there's gonna be political ramifications, workload ramifications, operational ramifications. It's gonna create more work for staff.
Yes. Yeah, I think we'll figure it out. We have a great team. I think we are, this is created, and this isn't in jest, this isn't in anger, this is just the facts. This has created more work for staff for 6 years. And so, feeling like we're very close to the end of having an agreement, and an agreement that provides more financial support to the district is really nice, and I hope that we're almost there. And I think we can push this last little bit of uphill climb for the next month or so, and hopefully have a great outcome, an outcome that's improves our relationship and is beneficial to the district and, you know, those folks that are going to use the field moving forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good idea, Celeste.
We need,
Well, one thing that I hope is, Skylar, I hope that it brings your staff some satisfaction that the board is deliberating and taking seriously their concerns and the extra list, and that our intention is to back them up by developing a stronger IGA with our partners at the school district.
I think it will, yeah.
we need a motion to move into executive session.
I move the board of directors would go into executive session for the purpose of review and evaluate the employment-related performance of the chief executive officer of any public body, a public officer, employee, or staff member who does not request an open hearing pursuant to ORS 192.660, Section 1, Item I.
Thanks, Mike. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thanks, Sue. All in favor, signify aye. Opposed, nay. Kyle? Sue?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Celeste?
Aye?
Aye.
Does Skylar request an open hearing?
We're gonna hold off for a second.
I am going to stop recording, if that's all right,
Yep.
and give Darren a chance to...
That actually got brought up
wait until it go.
I think this will be Celeste's, motion. She's done all the work.
Do that first, let me.
That's one of the things I like about our board in particular. All of us bring different little like niches. Celeste is fantastic.
Recording
with,
in progress.
HR and personnel. I love your like safety, fire, all of that, health, just construction history, like
And we
it's
work
all,
well together.
yeah, it's all,
And we
which,
get along.
yeah, which we have not always had, but.
Talking about me?
No.
Oh, no.
But
Oh, Kyle.
I enjoy this group, anyway, sorry, that was a
Pretty
side
functional.
tangent, but,
Pretty fun.
all right, so let's go for it.
We four have seen other things.
I'd like to make a motion that, the board authorizes a, adjustment in compensation to our executive director as discussed during, executive session that includes a COLA, merit increase, and adjustments for increased responsibilities.
Thank you.
Thank you, Celeste.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, signify by aye. Opposed, nay. Kyle.
Aye.
Sue.
Hi.
Mike.
Aye.
Celeste.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Skylar. Board comment. Kyle.
I, had the sheer pleasure of going to one of the senior meals at lunchtime last week. And I got the cook's tour with Chris, and it was really awesome. And I would encourage all of the board members to take one lunchtime out of one day and just sit down there with one of the volunteers was a PhD in English, talking about writing, skills. I mean, it was just really, really fascinating. So, board members, if you have a chance, have lunch, next door here with the seniors and do the tour, because it's really worthwhile. No, the food it's not pad thai, you know, but it's filling, and it's what you might have in the Midwest or South, pretty much any lunchtime, so it's good.
Thank you. Sue?
I am grateful for the work of Skylar and time spent today with me, specifically for all this work on the IGA. I'm also grateful for the responsibility that we give you, Skylar, to go forward and produce, whatever mechanism to make Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District, a shining star in this community. And I appreciate your abilities being recognized as you're stepping into, is it a national or a state? Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a stepping stone. But I think it's really indicative of the quality of the product we provide to our community, and it is directed from you, and I am grateful for that. I had an interesting conversation with a patron this weekend, and I wound up coming back to the pool, pulling all the schedules, and she was like, well, this isn't clear to me on the computer. So I gave the information to her, and I think there's things that we can do to make that easier. I don't quite know what her complaint was. And it wasn't a complaint, it was just more a lack of information. And also, bless you.
Sorry. Go ahead.
So, I think there's always room for, making sure that we're promoting more of what we offer to our community, because I think it is a stellar opportunity to be able to play.
Thanks, Sue. Mike?
Well spoken. Scott, I just want to thank you for your hard work and your diligence. And, I'm grateful that you're, our fearless leader, so to speak. And got a lot of hurdles we've been over the last few years, starting with COVID and the acquisition of the SRC and building our programs and all those things for occupancy and now the fire system, and then it won't be long, we'll have a full building. Thank you.
Celeste? Did you not get recorded to go?
So, yep, so I'm really looking forward to moving ahead in our relationship with Seaside School District and getting an IGA that we all can be super excited about because we have such great opportunity in our complex currently, and I just can't wait until we kind of can get through the sort of paperwork and agreement hurdles so that we can make sure that our community, including all of the kids in our community, have a great place to play, and that everything is working in sync. And man, how lucky are we to have Skylar as our executive director and lead us through all of these things. We've had so many challenges that are, that there isn't a roadmap for. And Skylar, I really appreciate the fact that you have partnered well with all of us board members and with your team. Well, I know carry a lot of extra work to make sure that we're getting stuff done to advance the mission of the Park and Rec District. So thank you.
Thanks, Les. I am excited for the progress that we are making on the fire system. I think, just being able to kind of see the steps and see the end in sight and to the full occupancy, I think is super exciting. I do appreciate that you, what's the word? Something dogged, I don't know, whatever the phrase is, us towards that goal. I am hopeful for a final IGA to work with the school district. It's been a long time coming. I think as long as I have been on this board, it has been a topic of discussion. And I feel like I've been on here longer than I think, but it's been a while. And Skylar, I hope the general feeling from you is that the board has your back, but not just yours, the entire staff. We appreciate every single one of them. They do an amazing job to make the district what it is, and we have a special thing here in Seaside that makes Seaside just a really cool place to live. I mean, not very many small communities like ours have a really awesome park district, and I think that is something to be said. So thank you to all the staff, thank you to you, thank you to the board for coming out on a fabulous Wednesday, and with that, good night. Meeting adjourned.
Celeste, don't leave. You want one of these?
I would love a sweatshirt if there's extra.
She's
Skylar
is doing another order.
He's doing one last order of the gray.
It doesn't have to be the last, it's just a limited.
I would totally wear one.
So what size do you want?
Should be a darker
Double
gray
XL,
than
they
Cindy,
have
because
it.
she's worn it so much, it's washed it.
Oh my gosh, it is worn out.
It used to be
So
like
I'm sorry, what did you say?
2X.
Probably a double XL.
Okay.
Oh,
I got it.
oh my gosh.
I assume it's